Brother Yaqub, thank you very much for receiving us here at Al Wasatiyya Center. Is that how it's called?
Yes, in Dutch we will call it Middenweg with a hard on the back, but it's it's derived from the word Wasatiyya.
How long have you been here?
2013 we opened. The first year we had it as a rental place, and in 2014 we bought it and the underlying ground, and yeah, we've been here.
It's a masjid, it's a center, it's a cafe as well.
Yeah. We divided it a little bit in two parts. That the top part, it's really the masjid, the mosque, where we have our daily prayers, the Friday prayer, our ceremonies. And the bottom floor we like to keep as general as possible. So we like it when neighbors come in to have a cup of coffee with us.
And this is here like a diwaniyah.
This is actually from diwaniyah, from the Kuwaiti tradition. We always said, especially if you know the tradition, of course, in Kuwait, the hospitality, to invite people, to be free to discuss anything you like.
But it's not restricted to Kuwait, it's all over the region.
Yeah, but there they call it majlis, then they call it this, then yeah. But I remember when I just became Muslim, I was in Kuwait in a very famous diwaniyah, Mr. Al-Khanam, and he used to give letters in which he would clarify what a diwaniyah was from the Kuwaiti tradition. And what I've noticed is that still Kuwait, it's still very formal in the way they do it. If you go to Emirates or you go to Qatar, most majlis now they're watching football, but in Kuwait still, and I really love that. Still the known diwaniyas, they are still very strict in the cultural ways how they interact with each other.
Now you converted to Islam in Kuwait, or you went to Kuwait after you converted?
No, I went to Kuwait afterwards. Yes, right. We had even several conferences with new Muslims in Kuwait. But I converted here in the Netherlands.
Now, tell me how that happened. What is your journey? How was your journey to Islam?
Well, of course, I think this will be for a lot of converts, that the journey, of course, starts when you're a small child. This is starting to understand who you are, and you're starting to ask yourself, where did I come from? I came from a Christian family, so for us it was very normal that my parents, and especially my mother, introduced God as the creator of life, and who had a plan with you, and I went to Christian schools.
So your family was a religious Christian family?
Yes, it's here
Catholic or Protestant?
A mix, and it was, of course, the Netherlands are known for being the first one who could mix a little bit. So my father's side from the Catholic family, my mother's side from Protestant family, but raised mostly Protestant. And specifically in Salvation Army. So my grandmother and my grandfather were captains, so they have the official army uniforms, and they operate like an army, but an army to take care of the poor. I think it's known worldwide, the Salvation Army.
It exists in the UK as well?
In the UK, America, yeah, it's worldwide. So my mother went to the schools, and by the time our generation, when we grew up, we were still, but not really active as a member of the Salvation Army. Just recently, my aunt and uncle, they reaffirmed their, I don't know.
Affiliation?
Like their affiliation, yeah. So they had a ceremony again with a uniform again. And they are regular visitors here. So it's very nice to, so this was really, for me, the way I still remember, because I didn't start believing in a different God during the way. So I think the real journey began there, but what
made it for you? There must have been a point somewhere.
Well, the main point was first that when I came into the age of like 15, 16 years old, when you're young and you grow up with the Christianity and the Bible, you get the stories about David and Goliath and Moses and the Pharaoh. It's the same. We had those all in school. And it's always fascinating as a small child, to see God has a plan and other people want to do something else, but in the end he wins and he succeeds in his plan. So everything goes well until you're about 15 years old for most of the people. Then the church starts demanding that you ascribe yourself to certain standards. So then all of a sudden, they're starting to demand from you that you acknowledge original sin, that you acknowledge, because there's original sin, that you acknowledge the blood of Christ, so that he suffered on the cross and he was crucified to redeem for the original sin of Adam. So this was a little bit strange, because Old Testament, always the good guys win. God always succeeds. He helps Moses through the sea, and David and Goliath. But now all of a sudden Jesus in the New Testament, he loses. He's dying.
Despite being the Son of God.
Yes. All of a sudden it's a different story. So there was a little bit of shock for me. So I started asking questions in my Christian school. I had their religious lessons always, and I went to Sunday school also as a smaller child. And it was really the answer which you would get. Yeah, we know it's complicated, but that's how it is.
No explanation.
No, there's no real explanation if you keep asking questions, then the answer doesn't come. So I had at a certain moment when I was 15, 16 years old, like, I never lost my faith in God. So I always kept in contact with God. But I started to realize that maybe the written part and the dogmas and all these things, it might not be for me. So I put it aside, and I grew up in Rotterdam South. So it's in the UK, it's comparable like a city of Liverpool. You know, it's a big harbour city, migrants here, Muslims. So you would hear, especially in the big cities, names like Ibrahim, then Abraham, Musa, Moses, and it was. So I got curious because, of course, I had a religious background, and I got in touch with Algerian and Moroccan boys. And for me, actually, I thought if I would have a look at Islam, that it would turn out the same way as it turned out with Christianity.
So you expected nothing new?
I expected something similar, but I thought, well, I have to check it, because when I see for myself that there are things which I really do not feel comfortable with, like original sin, and I cannot give it a proper place in my understanding, then I have the right to leave it aside. But of course, well, we know now that on those crucial parts, Islam has a different. And then all of a sudden, I saw a religion again, which reminded me of the Old Testament Christian ways. It was smooth, in the same line
of what the Torah was saying.
So with the Torah, and always the same. It's the same. It's the people, and it's God, and God will send the messenger, and the people try to object, and they don't want to listen, and at the end, the good win. And all of a sudden, but then the big challenge, and I think it's still, even though I'm almost 25 years Muslim now, the big challenge still is that we get the package in Arabic form. With Christianity, of course, through the centuries, they made it completely European. People nowadays would think that Jesus is a European instead of somebody from the Middle East. They think he's like blonde hair and
from Palestine.
Yeah, he would look more like me then, but he's not, of course. So they completely Europeanized the religion. So of course it's not the fair way to deal with the religion, of course. But at the other side, here, still after having Islam now present in all the major countries in Europe, it's still in different cultural forms than we as Europeans are familiar with. So this was the big challenge, to see through the Arabic, or sometimes the Turkish, Ottoman, and the Far East, the Indian, Pakistani form in which Islam developed throughout the centuries in their countries, because they brought the total package here. So I sometimes try to explain also to new Muslims here, when we have new Muslims, this is like, Islam is like pure water. It's the substance. But you can make cardamom tea, they like it in India.
Or mint tea.
And you have mint tea from Morocco, and it's no problem. Islam has the water has no problem. You can give it your taste.
I think we are now approaching sometime in the future, but not in the very distant future, a European culture of Islam.
It is forming, yes. Like I said, this is one of the reasons why we wanted to establish this center. Because when I became Muslim in 1998, it's very dependent which mosque you go to for your journey in Islam. If you go to a Turkish mosque, it's big chances that you get Islam in the Turkish cultural form.
That is true.
And if you go to a Moroccan mosque, you will slightly have... I was fortunate that in the late 90s, we had a lot of people coming as refugees from Somalia. So there was a Somali mosque. And so I was a new Muslim and they were new in this country, so we were helping each other a little bit.
There was something new about both sides.
I was translating things and we were... So also because they were new, they didn't really have a fixed form. So I managed to talk with them and said, look, we should do the Friday khutbah partly also in Dutch. Let's do half of it in Dutch. So they were actually the first mosque which would have Arabic and Dutch. But the way I compare it always is like when you're a new Muslim, it is incredible how nice the Muslims, they are welcoming you and they're open for you. And any mosque I go to, you know, they welcome you with open arms. But it's a little bit like if you go out for dinner every day. You get nice dinner and then you're welcomed and everything. But at a certain point, you just want to have dinner at home on the couch. Just simply from your, you know, this
your
is what you
way.
need. Yes, in your own way. And it wasn't there. Everywhere where I would go, I would be the guest. So you're always the guest in the house of God, but not from God, but also from the people.
Now, on the positive side, I would see it slightly differently. I would see it as a characteristic of Islam, being universal. Yes, the Quran is in Arabic. The traditions of the Prophet ﷺ are in Arabic because he was an Arab in an Arab environment. But this is a religion that is adaptable to every culture. So the real challenge is for the Muslims of the Netherlands or the Muslims of the UK or of America or whatever, is with the passage of time to develop their own their own culture.
Yeah, this is what we always say a little bit jokingly, that when I became a Muslim, the Muslims are so generous that not only they give me Islam, but they're also willing to give me their complete culture. When I said, I already have one.
Yes, true.
My culture is Dutch, European, Protestant in this way.
Of course, there's the problem of some Muslims who are born as Muslims is that they don't make the distinction between what is cultural and what is religious. And sometimes they introduce their deen in a cultural format. It's okay for them, but it shouldn't be imposed on others. But let me go back to that moment when you decided to embrace Islam.
Well, I started looking, of course, the most crucial part for me was not La ilaha illallah, but Muhammad Rasulullah. This was new. La ilaha illallah for me,
you already knew
my mother never taught me anything else. Even on the part of Jesus, peace be upon him, she was always very clear. Jesus was a very important person, but God is God. So in this way, she was more monotheistic than, and I believe that most of the Christians believe this more than really the dogmas. They just say this because the church demands from them to say this. So, and then of course, then what's there? You know, books or things we started, and everything. Of course, it has a layer of Arabic around it, and so I started talking a lot with, especially one Algerian friend. And the funny thing is that this brother, he was not really practicing Muslim. We actually meet in a very bad environment, how we were. But it was so amazing.
At the pub?
Well, alhamdulillah, I never was really a pub drinker, but we've facilitated things which, you know, for us there was no real problem because this is like the free country and we do what we like. But yeah, this was not really the best way. So it was like, you know, the major street, young boys, you know, trying to make some money and going around. And the most amazing thing with this Algerian brother was that when we would be somewhere, I think this was like, I don't know, it was like a container with cigarettes or something. Then always, when we were somewhere in a position where it was a little bit, then he would say, hey, Jack, at that time they called me Jack. My name was already Jacob, but they called me Jack. He says, look, you have to understand, this, it's not from my religion, huh?
Oh, really?
I said, why are you telling me? Why are you telling me now? It's 12 o'clock at night. You know, we have to do something. Why are you telling me?
You were going to offend.
And he would say, no, I would think, why would this come up? But he had the urge, even in doing bad things, he always wanted to make clear to me,
Subhanallah.
my religion is something different from what I do. It was very nice. Sincerity, even in bad character. This is, for me, was really amazing. Amazing that you can be in a very bad place doing the most worst things and then give a reminder to the one you're with. Don't blame my religion.
Inadvertently, he made da'wah to you.
Yeah. No, but he's an amazing person in that way. Later on, he get jail sentences, and they had to transfer him to different jail because the workers were converting to Islam. But not because he was a very high scholar, but because of this pure honesty. He was so honest that he would reach your heart with this. You know, he would reach your heart if he would say something like this. Because you think, why would you mention this? Why would you mention that this is not, let's go on. So I really believe that, you know, those are the ingredients in which hidayah will come, you know, by the sincerity and not especially the knowledge level. And I only, after 25 years of Islam, I started to agree more and more on that level. And the most, which I still remember, is that I spoke, this was a Moroccan teacher of him actually, which he brought me to, which I had a lot of talks, who wrote even books about Christianity. So he really knew how to talk with me on deeper level. And I still remember that the most amazing thing, which was when he explained to me the essence of the Prophet ﷺ, that he said, you know, like in the Old Testament and, you know, the fights and the battles which he did, the Prophet ﷺ was in all those aspects the top. But Allah chose at a certain point to present him in a form, and Allah did not choose this form for nothing. And this was the ayah, لَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ رَسُولٌ مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ عَزِيزٌ عَلَيْهِ مَا عَنِّتُمْ حَرِيصٌ عَلَيْكُمْ بِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ رَءُوفٌ رَحِيمٌ. That the essence of leadership is, what will hurt you hurts him. Then he said to me, he says, this is your prophet. Understand, what hurts you, it hurts him. If he would know now that you are hurt in any way, he would feel it.
عزيز عليه ما عنتم حريص عليكم بالمؤمنين رؤوف رحيم.
Of course, we know the famous ayah, رحمة للعالمين, but this is more specific to
وما أرسلناك إلا
رحمة للعالمين. Yes, but this was very specific that the Prophet sent to you, and Allah could have chosen anyone. He is the strongest. He will take care of you. He is the best in talking or doing anything. All those. This
was said to you by the Moroccan?
The Moroccan, yes, Shu'aib. And really this was like the last drop, which I think, yes, if this is the characteristic of this man, and already I see there's nothing else, then he's calling to one God, like I've seen always in the Old Testament. I thought, yes, this has to be a prophet. And he's the last one, that's also very clear. So this was when Muhammad Rasulullah, of course, the acceptance is before that, but you don't know the exact amount. So there were...
It's a process.
Yes, there were instances that I said, you know, I'm not a Muslim, but not drinking alcohol is a very good thing, so I will not do that. Yeah, you know, and then you get all these things step by step. Then your surroundings, especially like your mother, my mother, of course, she says, yeah, I already knew that you were Muslim. I could see it. You know?
Oh, really?
Yes, she said, of course.
So she accepted that.
And yes, alhamdulillah, we have a very, like I said, you can compare Rotterdam a lot to Liverpool in the UK settings. So alhamdulillah, for me, with my family, becoming Muslim was never an issue, never a problem. If I would change the support for my soccer team, if I would change from our soccer team to another one, then my family would be a little bit like, what happened, you know? Yeah. So my aunts, my uncles,
they all accepted.
All of them very open.
Well, that's a relief.
Yeah. So alhamdulillah, until this day, like I said, they're visitors here. We have a very good family. And unfortunately, because I've seen in many issues in the last 25 years, of course, a lot of new Muslims having different ways.
Yes, they suffer a lot.
Of course, also I became Muslim. I always say I'm a pre-9/11 convert. It has a different, you know, after 9/11, of course, a whole different, you know, pressure came on on those issues.
Though I met some brothers who converted because of 9/11.
Yeah. Here we have.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, you might find people who are deterred. You might find people who are.
Everything what
encouraged.
gets attention, it will. Yeah. Even they say it. There's no such thing as bad. Negative, how you call it?
Publicity.
Publicity. There's nothing. Yeah.
All
we had
publicity is good publicity.
Yeah. But before that, Islam, was a little bit like,
More acceptable.
Yeah, and they thought, there's something like Buddhism and being spiritual and very nice, Of course, for women, it's different than men. Of course, because the hijab, the things. This is, it has.
Yeah, it's a lot more difficult for them because it puts them aside. It creates in the minds of people some sort of a barrier between them.
True. Yeah. And these are the things which we discussed. That's the way we have to find a way to make the cultural way integrated with Islam as Dutch. So in this center, for instance, if non-Muslims come here, they are so surprised. They ask me, am I really in a mosque? Because the cultural codes in which we interact with each other, the jokes we make, they understand quickly because this is all within the Dutch cultural codes in which we, of course, limited by Islam.
It does not contradict Islam.
No, it doesn't contradict. So they come in and they quickly notice that, hey, the way the people are here interacting with their cultural codes, I understand it.
Yeah,
it's
true.
easy.
I think that's important.
And
that's
a lot of
very
Muslims,
important.
by the way, and I think this is one of the issues, and I always love to discuss. We have some of our brothers who are sociologists, and I don't know how you call the other one.
Psychiatrist?
No, not psychiatry, but the study of humans.
Anthropologist.
Anthropologists. That if you have Muslims, probably in the UK the same. I see it with my family. It's amazing. When I see my family, they say, "Oh, Jacob, we had a taxi driver. He was Turkish and he was so nice. He lifted my bags and did it. Oh, we went to the shawarma and he was so nice." Or the telephone, the cable guy. He made extra things. So when Muslims are not in a religious contact in the West, they are such a nice people too. But when we are in a religious context, sometimes we stop going on the automatic pilot and we start thinking about how, and then we become a little bit of harsh. This is how the people experience this. Religious Muslims, it's always different. We cannot do this, cannot do that. And without a religious contact,
it's a problem of presentation. How we present ourselves, how we present our deen to others. If you present it as something which is restrictive, which is too draconian, then you create fear.
Yeah, but also confusion. We see, for instance, the north side of Morocco. They have very strict rules, men and women, like you find in other places. But then you see in their normal working space, they have a very nice and balanced way, of course. If we see a lady sitting there, Muslim, we're not going to sit with her and chat. We have a certain Islamic way and we have a nice balanced way. But in a religious setting, all of a sudden, we have to have a wall between it, or they have to use a different, because this
which
is
really not inherent in Islam. I mean,
yes.
During the time of the Prophet ﷺ, if you read some of the stories, they were at ease with many of these things. I mean, even in the mosque, there was no barrier.
Yeah. Same here, actually. There was a nice story with a fantastic show. When we opened the mosque, of course, we didn't have any ethnic background, so we could choose the way we wanted to do it. So I invited a very good scholar, which I really like. He was in the Netherlands. He came over from Ireland at that time. And I invited him to come. I said, look, how should we do it? We have a prayer hall. The Qibla, it would be nice if we would like that, but... And then the men and women, and then he said, no, nothing. I said, but we have small barriers because if we don't put the small barriers, the men will come in and they will sit on the back side. And he says, no. He says, leave everything out. And eventually I had to discuss with him. He said, okay, just small ones.
For practicality.
So they can see.
Yes,
So even later on, of course, people came, oh, you have men and women in one prayer hall. And blah, blah, blah. I said, look, this is the scholar. If you want to debate with him,
just let them go and read the seerah.
yes, of course.
They'll find out for themselves.
Even beyond that, we had at one time, we have a big beamer which we do lessons sometimes. And then now you have a quick one button, it's YouTube. You have Mecca Live. So you have somebody in the mosque complaining, oh, there is men and women, and you put Mecca on. And you see the men and the women. I said, look, what are they? Yeah. No, we had some people, and especially it's sad when you see new Muslims becoming Muslim in a certain environment, and they were all of a sudden being taught this in this form of Islam. Like now all of a sudden, this is what I mediated in many family issues that they say, my daughter or son, he became Muslim, can you please come and talk with us? I never had one of the fathers or mothers saying, oh, Jacob, it's horrible. My daughter started believing in one God. There's no issue on that. What are the issues? He's wearing Arabic clothes. He doesn't want to greet his aunt. We had one time a boy, unfortunately, I think he ended even up in Syria, and what was the issue? He was thrown out of house, or he ran away from house because his mother, and she's not really even that religious, to ask to take the Christmas tree from the attic because she couldn't lift it. It was Christmas time.
She asked him to help her.
To take it, yes. And he says, no, I will. I said, if you had called me, I would have come. I would have done it. I would have taken it to him.
It's an issue of understanding.
And then the family falls apart, you leave, and this is, so it's always those issues that all of us, they said he doesn't want to greet his aunt. His aunt changed his diapers. What is wrong? What is the problem? But never, La ilaha illallah, that he started believing in one God. Or even that the message, how the Prophet ﷺ brought it, that no, we like, of course they're going to like. If you show them the seerah, it's always in differentiation, is in a cultural way. It's not in the religious way. We had a very nice scholar here who was the head of Diyanet, a professor from Bursa, and he did his master's scripture.
From Turkey.
Yeah, from Turkey. Dr. Bülent Şenay, very, very nice scholar. And he did his master in the UK. And then he said, Islam is like 15%, 85%. There's the urf, there's the customs and the ways, and the 15% always stays the same, but the 85% it moves, and we use this a lot to make here. So here, basically in the center, we made 3 main pillars in which we say that ethnicity has no place. On ethnic level, nobody's better than the other. And the second one, because you have to be a little bit careful that if you have no ethnicity in which you run, then you can become like ideologically very narrow-minded. So we had some examples in the past, mosques which would say any ethnicity is welcome, but on a theological line you have to be very strict with them. So the length of the beard, the height of the, this.
Unacceptable.
So we said, we say you can come in without a beard, with a beard. You can come with the niqab or without hijab, but you don't interfere with the beard or the hijab of your neighbor. Later. This is really a Dutch live and let live. This is a Dutch cultural form. And the third one we said, which is so necessary for the Islamic community, and which we did here, is that women on decision-making level have to participate. Not just in a women's commission or or the kitchen commission or something like this. No, decision-making level.
In the actual management.
Yes. And this was hard even in the beginning because the women were like, no, I don't want to be in those positions and all that. They were not used to it. Now, alhamdulillah, we have fantastic women like you saw this morning, and you will see in the afternoon. Strong women with leadership, and who have some. If we are raising our children in our Islamic centers, and the women are not giving input, this is a horrible. This is waiting for disaster,
Well, Brother Yaqub, it's really been a great pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.